Hello everyone and welcome to a really awesome attacking game from the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz tournament. This is the Rapid section. As usual, first we're going to have the 3 days of Rapid. It's 25 minutes for the entire game plus 10 seconds delay from move 1. I think the prize fund is some $150,000 with $37,500 for first place. So it's round 1. It's Leinier versus Magnus Carlsen. Let's check it out and enjoy the game, as it's really just a beauty. So without further ado, Ding opens with d4. And for those of you who are wondering, and for those of you who miss Meadow in the background, I will not be returning to my hometown for a few more days. So up until then, we will have recordings from this room. So sorry about that. But we work with what we have. d4 by Ding, we have knight to f6 by Carlsen, c4, e6, and of course, we all know where this is going, knight f3 and d5. The queen's gambit declined is on the board. We have knight to c3, and Carlsen goes for the Ragozin defense. We have bishop to b4. Bishop to g5 by Ding, and now d captures on c4, and of course Ding goes for e4, preparing to recapture on c4 with a development of the light square bishop. b5, Carlsen defends it, and of course a4. The usual way you want to attack the b5 pawn if black tries to defend his c4 pawn. We have c5 by Magnus, and now a captures on b5, now again ready to recapture on c4. We have c captures on d4 by Magnus, knight captures on d4, you have to capture it, and now h6, asking Ding, do you want to capture on f6 or do you want to go back? Ding goes bishop back to e3, and now knight captures on e4. Now with the idea of just capturing on c3, so queen to c2, Ding defends it, and now bishop to b7. Carlsen puts his light square bishop on this beautiful diagonal. Finally, bishop captures on c4 comes, and now there is one game where castles was played in the database, but Magnus goes for queen to c7, just attacking the light square bishop, and this is now a new move in the position. But also, it's very interesting, can you somehow take advantage of, let's say, capturing here, maybe take advantage of this beautiful diagonal here? Not really, because if you capture on c3, after b captures on c3, black is just lost. You have to do something about your dark square bishop. For example, if you play bishop to d6, then you get knight captures on e6. This is the idea, and now there's just no coming back from this. If you capture, queen captures on g6 with check comes, you have to play king to f8 and then rook to d1, and there are too many threats in this position. For example, if you try queen to e7, just unpinning, maybe getting bishop to c7, hoping for queen f6 to trade queens, bishop captures on e6 comes. And now let's say bishop c7 doesn't work. Yes, you're up a piece, but let's say bishop c5 and black is lost. Even if you don't capture the bishop, you could lose a queen, or even worse, queen to f7 will be mate because the dark queen is pinned. One of the ideas. So here instead queen to c7 attacking the bishop, and now queen to b3, Ding defends the bishop. Also puts more pressure on the e6 square, and now Carlsen trades. Bishop captures on c3, also the bishop on b4 was under attack. B captures on c3, and now finally Carlsen castles. We have castles by Ding, and now Carlsen goes for rook to c8. It's a nice idea, attacks the bishop on c4. Also, if the bishop moves, the c3 pawn will be under attack. The downside is it leaves the rook on a8 underdeveloped, and it will be somewhat difficult to get this rook into the game. So bishop back to d3, and here Carlsen goes on knight to c5. It's interesting that if Carlsen goes after the pawn with queen captures here, he loses the game. Here Ding had in mind bishop captures on e4, just grabbing a piece. And now, after you grab the piece back, bishop captures on e4, you get rook ac1, and this is now the problem. You either have to give up the queen, the bishop guards the c1 square, or you capture the queen, but then first white captures with check. Rook captures, king h7, only now you recapture, and you are up a whole rook. So, not possible. Instead, Magnus goes for the double attack. He attacks the queen and the bishop on d3, and decides to get rid of the light square bishop. Not only is it a very strong piece, but also it, gets Ding's bishop pair off the board. We have queen to b1, knight captures, queen captures, and now knight to d7, getting the rest of the pieces developed. Queen to e2 by Magnus, not allowing knight c5 or e5 to come with an attack on the queen. Also, Ding wants to play queen g4 with a threat of bishop captures on h6. So Carlsen continues development, knight to b6, this knight is now coming to c4, and we have let me just improve this. We have queen to g4. As mentioned, bishop captures on h6 is the idea. We have king to h7, defending, and now comes the bishop to f4. The bishop on f4 is a very nice move because it comes with an attack on the queen, and also it prepares knight to c6, where this pawn, if it becomes a passer on c6, c7 will already be guarded by the bishop, so very nice. Queen to c5 by Magnus, and now rook f to e1. We have knight to c4 by Magnus, and now rook a to d1. All of Ding's pieces are now fully operational, and now Magnus has to waste a move if he wants to get this rook into the game. So rook to d8, this rook is no longer useful on c8, and now rook to d3. A very nice rook lifted by Ding. This rook now can come to g3 and threaten some mating ideas. We have queen back to e7, preparing, if the bishop moves, for example, queen g5 with a trade, queen can come to f6, you can push f5, the queen will also guard the g7 pawn, so a lot of defensive potential with queen to e7. And here, knight to c6 by Ding, but also knight to f5 seems very interesting, but it doesn't work. Black comes on top in this line. Even if you capture, okay, the white queen is also now under attack, but queen captures on f5 with check, g6, blocking check, and now rook captures on e7. G captures on f5, now you capture the f-pawn with check, king g6, now if you capture, you lose the rook on d3, so you have to play rook dd7, and now after captures, you'll get bishop c8, and, black is up a piece, white is up 2 pawns, but black will be better here. So not something Ding is interested in. Knight c6 as planned. Now, again, this is a monster knight. You have to get rid of it. Bishop captures on c6. And now, before capturing, a nice Zwischenzug by Ding. Rook captures, and now b captures on c6. And now we get the position we discussed. The bishop from f4 guards c7. So c7 is coming, and Magnus is unable to prevent that. With knight to b6, at least guarding the c8 square, the queening square with the knight, and now comes bishop to e5, already threatening mate. So here Magnus doesn't like f6, ruining the pawn structure in front of the king, so instead queen to g5. He offers a trade of queens, and now we have c7, threatening to capture. You could try and trade the queens, but here, for example, if queen captures on g4, you get c captures on d8, and now it's just bad for black. I mean, you're down the exchange, and you will not be able to hold this. There's no point in even trying this. So after c7, we have rook to d5, just getting the rook out of the way. It's not a problem, as the knight covers the queening square, and now queen to e4 check. Now Ding has some very nice ideas. For example, if you block with f5, then queen b1 with the threat of queen captures knight, just removing the defender of the queening square. So Magnus tries a different plan, queen to g6, again trying to trade queens, but now queen to b4. Again, Ding wants to capture the knight and get the other queen into the game. But here Magnus tries a very sneaky idea, queen to d3. And now can Ding capture the knight and get a new queen into the game? It's very interesting. For example, if queen captures and now the queen captures and pawn turns into a queen, do you see what Magnus had in mind here? Feel free to even pause the video and try to find Carlsen's idea in this position. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent exploiter of sneaky ideas. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen e2 wins the game. Now you either get queen captures rook with checkmate, or if rook captures, then rook d1 is checkmate. Or if you try rook f1, then you're not out of the woods yet. Rook d1, again, the threat is checkmate. And if you capture, the queen captures rook with checkmate. And if you play h3, you just get checkmated. Rook captures with check, king here, check, grabbing the bishop here, check, king g1, queen e1 will be mate. So not possible. You cannot capture. First, Ding realizes that there are back rank weaknesses in his position. So first h3. Now queen captures on b6 is definitely an idea. So Carlsen has to defend it. Queen to b5, again offering a queen trade, but again Ding declines it. Queen to e4 check. Now Carlsen's queen is stuck on the queen side, and there is not all that much to do there. With f5 attacking the queen, and now queen to f4. Now Ding wants to play queen g3 followed by queen to g7 checkmate. With queen back to d7, preventing this, also adding additional protection to the queening square. Now bishop to d4, not allowing Carlsen rook to d1 to trade down pieces. We have knight to c8, and now comes queen to g3. Here, Ding has a lot of ideas. You can just capture on e6. The queen will be unable to capture due to the checkmate on g7. So here, rook to d6, defending the e6 pawn, and also maybe now threatening to capture on c7 as the rook blocks the queen's protection of the c7 square. But h4 by Ding. And here you still can't capture because rook captures on e6 will just be super strong. You're coming to g6. You cannot capture because queen captures queen. So not possible. Here Carlsen goes rook to c6. Now again hoping to win the pawn. But h5. Now Ding wants to get to g6. So queen to f7, preventing that. And now bishop to e5, again defending now the c7 pawn twice. We have knight to b6, and now finally rook to a1. Ding activates his rook and hopes to now grab the a7 pawn. And here Carlsen doesn't really have a good way of stopping that. He goes knight to c4, now threatening to capture the bishop. Rook captures on a7. We have knight captures on e5, queen captures on e5, and now Carlsen is unable to capture on c7 as it's once again defended twice, so he plays queen captures on h5. But it doesn't help him. Here, again, feel free to pause the video and try to find the winning move for white in this position. While I give you a couple of seconds, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent, temporary sacrificer of queens. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen captures on g7 check. This move wins the game. The king has to capture, there's no other option. King captures, and now c8 queen with a discovered check from the rook. So black has to react to this. Carlsen played king to f6, and now Ding just played queen to d8 check, and it was in this position on move 45 that Magnus Carlsen resigned the game, because whatever he plays, he is getting checkmated. If king e5, then queen to d4 is mate. We get this position that we've discussed a few videos ago, where you have this pawn structure. It can be any piece, any pawn except a knight. Then the knight covers the mating square. So now everything here is covered nicely. And if you don't go to e5, if you go somewhere king to g6, which is the only other idea, queen g8 check, king f6, and now you get the same mating sequence from the other side. Again, the pawns are blocking the king, and the queen delivers, sorry about that, the queen delivers mate. Again, a very nice structure. So yeah, this is a game from round 1. Ding takes a full point from Magnus Carlsen, full 2 points, because in Rapid you get 2 points for a win. So yeah, a nice start for Ding Liren, and Magnus will have to work hard to get back into the lead, as he should. I mean, he is the world champion. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. We're not going to discuss who is playing in the tournament or the standings. I'm going to show at least one more game from the day 1. So we're going to discuss that then. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I would like to thank Christopher Milligan and Taras Karpiak for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate that. As usual, you can check all my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Checking up on your suggestions, continuing the coverage of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz event, and of course, enjoying my vacation here. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.